Hello again, racing fans. Welcome to Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. This is Behind the Lines. I'm Steve Cross, and our guest this evening, track superintendent here at Hoosier Park, Mr. Gary Wolf. Welcome aboard, Gary.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, Gary, of course, no stranger to the Hoosier Park family here in Anderson, Indiana. This is your return season, if you will. You were here with us for a year or two, several years back, and the opportunity rose for you to return back to the Anderson area. So good to have you back aboard again. And from what I understand, your wife and yourself have settled in, purchased a house here. So looks like it's a long-term thing.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be back. We bought a house down in Pendleton. Great house. My wife's in town.
Great.
I turned 60 today.
Hey, happy birthday, Gary.
So things are good.
Things are really good, I must say. Well, we have given our racing fans the opportunity to tweet us some questions, and we'll be going through those questions in just a little bit. And I'll be honest, some very, very good questions for you tonight, Gary. I have come up with some as myself as well. So we're just going to go through this thing a little bit informally this evening and find out a little bit more about Gary Wolf, what drives you, and what we can expect from you as the track superintendent. First of all, how many years and how many different tracks, venues have you been the track superintendent?
I started in Buffalo Raceway in 1974. Worked for a gentleman called George Gregory. If anybody knows Jeff Gregory from out east, it was his grandfather.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know Jeff.
I spent about 18 years there.
Okay.
And then I moved on to Garden State Park in 1991 or 2.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bought a home there.
Big place, big track.
Matter of fact, we lived in New Jersey for the last 25 years before we came here. So it's at Garden State, 8 years. Went to Freehold, 8 years. Meadowlands, 8 years.
Oh, boy.
Came out to Hoosier Park for about a year, and then back to Meadowlands. Now I'm back here.
Okay. Well, again, it's great to have you. Great to have you back again. On a day-to-day basis, what are your responsibilities as a track superintendent here at Hoosier Park?
Mainly just taking care of the racetrack equipment, hiring help, things like that.
Okay. Speaking of hiring help, how many people does your department employ on the backside?
I have 8 guys that work on the track other than myself.
Okay.
And then we have 2 mechanics down the shop, take care of all the equipment.
Okay. So 8 employees, 2 shifts, I'm assuming? 3 shifts? I don't know.
Yeah, we have a day training shift and a night race shift.
Okay, what time does the day training shift come in the morning?
Well, they start at 5 o'clock.
There's a 5 o'clock a.m.?
5 a.m., yeah, the track opens at 6. It's open from 6 to 12:30, so they work from 5 a.m. to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
Afternoon shift comes in at 2. They work till about 11 o'clock at night.
Wow, two long shifts for those guys. I tell you, they do a smash-up job out there. A lot of responsibility. It's not just hopping in the tractor and driving in circles all day. You have to be on your toes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have a lot of the horses, a lot of expensive horses, and of course people out there as well. And as you well know, machinery and people and equine don't always mix together very well.
No, that's absolutely true. I got a great bunch of guys that work for me. 3 or 4 new guys that have broken real well.
Good.
The equipment we have here,
top notch.
Between Rod and Jim, they spare no expense. All new water trucks, new tractors, new gators. It's a thrill to work here with new equipment. I mean, that's every track man's dream.
Welcome to Centaur Racing.
Yeah, for sure.
It is certainly a thrill to be a part of it. So 3 new water trucks. So what gives? Where did you buy these water trucks? Where do they come from? I guess I'm assuming they have all the bells and the whistles.
And then some.
And then some.
Yeah, we bought them from a company up in Alliance, Indiana.
Oh, good.
It's called Bats Equipment. He builds a lot of trucks for airports for salting the runways and stuff like that.
Okay.
And this was a new adventure for him, but he really came through. These trucks are just amazing. All computerized, automatic. It's just everything's push button, cruise control. It's got it all.
So 3 here. I understand 3 for Indy Grand as well.
Yeah, Rod likes to keep everything exactly like this.
Sure.
The same trucks we have here, they'd have at Indy. The same tractors they have there, we have here. So it's a.
I'm assuming with an exception of with the water trucks, because I'm assuming with the thoroughbred track versus the standardbred track maybe takes a little different equipment.
It's the same size trucks. It's just a different size boom and nozzles for the amount of water that they put on down there compared to what we put on up here.
Okay, very good. On and I know this varies from day to day. Let's say a hot sunny day in the middle of August. How many gallons of water on this track? Any idea?
From sun up to sundown?
From sun up to sundown.
Probably 150,000, 200,000 gallons.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Each truck holds about 4,000 gallons.
Okay, super. And so with the John Deere tractors, how many hours would you put on the John Deere tractor in any given day? I guess from 6 a.m. to midnight.
It works out to about 1,200 hours a year.
1,200 hours
for
a
the
year.
meat that we have here.
Okay.
Or that's what we're hoping for. That's kind of the agreement we have with John Deere. So.
Sure. Okay. Well, very good. And let's see. Weather-wise, right now, not the best weather for racing. What is your biggest concern or fear on any given night? And I'm assuming it may be weather-related. I'm not sure. I guess I'll leave that up to you. What's one of your biggest concerns when you come to work?
It really is. Around here, there's so many pop-up thunderstorms that it doesn't show up on the radar. You don't see it coming, and you're not prepared. You really have to be right on top of the weather. I watch it on my phone all night long. I watch it on TV.
I can imagine.
But that's probably the worst thing. Like last night or 2 nights ago, we opened the track up, pop-up thunderstorm, didn't show up on the radar, got caught with our pants down. Just didn't look good, but it all worked out in the end. But
how does that differ from, say, the East Coast tracks that you worked at as far as the weather is concerned? Are those pop-up storms a bit more prevalent here in the Midwest than, say, the East Coast? Or is that it would certainly have to differ from region to region, I would assume.
I think it's much more prevalent in Indiana.
Is it? Okay.
Plus the high winds. The wind seems to blow here all the time.
Isn't that amazing?
I just don't know why, but it just does.
It does. That it does. That's why we see some of these wind turbines, and not too far away from here, maybe 30 miles away from here. So with the big wind farms, so certainly that is a big part of it as well. And I know that the drivers and the horses out there, they battle that wind constantly, especially in the springtime. Hopefully we have that behind us now, but we certainly have a lot of wind here in the Anderson area. I'm going to go now to some of our Twitter questions. We have, again, 5 Twitter questions, and these are great questions. Jacob Hall, what went into your decision, Gary, to make the move from the Meadowlands to Hoosier Park?
Well, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot. At one time, I believe Meadowlands was the #1 harness track in the country. The problem is they race through the winter. I've worked winter racing for 40-some years now.
Not fun.
And
Buffalo?
And it really gets old real quick. So that was one of the reasons I came here, was to get away from winter racing.
Right. We go from April through the middle of November.
And that's perfect. I mean, we still have summer days. I mean, the opening night we had a snowstorm, but...
That doesn't happen very often. I don't remember too many nights with harness racing, especially where we had the snow squalls that we had the first 2 weeks here at Hoosier Park. Now, when we used to run thoroughbreds into December, we'd see that quite a bit, but not with the harness. So that was something new.
Yeah.
Something new, interesting.
But every trackman's dream, whether it's thoroughbreds, standardbreds, is to work at the #1 track in the country. It really is. You know, if it's an ego thing, whatever it might be. But I truly believe that if we aren't #1 today, we're going to be #1 very soon. I think there's some problems at other places, and I truly believe that this is going to be the place to be.
We have a great team. We have great management, and this is not a broken record. We've talked about this so many times on the air, and it is certainly a privilege to be able to work for Centaur Racing, be it at Hoosier Park or Indiana Grand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so that was the question from Jacob Hall. Aaron Richardson, how does the temperature and humidity play into how you prepare the track on a daily basis?
Well, it really doesn't. It doesn't come into effect that much here. I mean, if the weather was, we still had freezing nights, it may come into play a little bit, maybe early in the spring. But on a normal night, we prepare the track the same every day. So.
Okay, very good. Very good. And Luke Kennedy asks, how different is the track surface at Hoosier Park than that at the Meadowlands?
That's probably the biggest difference. Out east, they have a stone that's called trap rock. It's a very hard stone.
Is that the dark material?
That's the dark stone. When you water it, it turns black. That's the color it is.
Where does that come from? Is that
it's local to the area.
Local to the area.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's only in the northeast.
Okay.
As you move out west, you run into limestone blends. And here at Hoosier, we have a brown ag lime. It's limestone, but it's brown.
Right.
And then we add a stone aggregate to it. It's a number 12 stone. It's a very small stone. That's probably the only thing I'm going to look to change here eventually.
Okay.
Because I think there might be something a little better out there for that.
Okay.
But as far as working the materials, that's pretty much the same.
So does the Midwest limestone, does that tend to break down quicker than the you call it the black rock or the
trap rock?
Trap rock,
Yeah.
and the trap rock from the East Coast?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This one takes a lot more work than it does out east.
Really?
Yeah.
So out east, you put the trap rock down, and you're good to go for
For quite a while.
For quite
yeah.
a while.
But the other thing out east, there was no training during the day. Racing 2 days a week.
Gotcha.
10, 12 races a night. It's
So this track here gets abused quite a bit.
absolutely
All day long,
yeah.
all evening long.
Absolutely.
So you're adding material how many times weekly?
Well, that's mostly dependent on the weather. I'd rather not put stone on unless I know it's going to rain. Well, obviously this week it rained every day.
Okay. Okay.
But a couple weeks ago when we had sunshine for 5 or 6 days, I didn't put any stone on, just ran on the ag lime, and that's where you saw all those super miles there
Right.
a couple weeks ago.
Track gets hard, or there's still a cushion, but
Yeah.
it binds really well.
Yeah, the rebound off the ag lime is very good.
Okay.
The rebound off the stone surface is not that good. So.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. So do you find that the Midwest limestone again? You said it breaks down. What do you do with the residue, with the powder? I mean, eventually there's going to be a buildup. Yes or no?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the year, we're going to take a lot off.
Okay. But you'll wait till the end of the year.
Yeah, there's just no time to do it now. I grade about 3 times a week and keep bringing that material to the top and adding fresh material to the bottom, so it's always good on the bottom where they race.
Do you find that this is probably the case with any track, cow path down to the inside? That's something you're always battling, or not? Not so much.
A little bit in the second and fourth turn. We did a lot of work to this last fall and added a few ingredients to it to help keep that a little tighter, and that's really seemed to help.
Okay.
So other than the second and fourth turn where it gets beat up all day long and all night long, the track is really good.
So with as much rain as we've had here recently, do you find that the turns, will they wash out? Is that an issue or not so much?
Not really. What I do is I'll keep one tractor with a piece of equipment on the rail all the time while it's raining, and then have the other 2 tractors work the rest of the racetrack. This way it doesn't get a chance to wash out.
Ah, okay. Very good. I see you use the Larkin Mitchell drags.
Yep.
How do those work? I mean, it looks like you're tearing it up, packing it down, tearing it up again.
That's pretty much what it does. It's carbide teeth on the top, on the bottom of a steel rod is what it is, and that carbide tip is what cuts the racetrack. And we do as much adjusting as to a 1/16 of an inch as far as cutting cushion here. That's how.
Wow.
That's how.
So
that's how accurate we try to get it.
There's an art to this.
Yeah.
You're not just out plowing a field.
No, we make adjustments all night long, all week long.
All week long. Okay. Very good. Well, let's go back to the Twitter questions here. Kim Mosier, first of all, has a question. Kim Mosier asks if she can bury her husband at the finish line someday.
Well, I'll tell you what, to be honest with you, if they cremate him, yeah. I've seen that done a lot where people have their loved ones cremated animals and they'll spread their ashes on the racetrack.
Really?
Because that's where
So that's not unheard of?
No, absolutely
okay.
not.
Well, she was just kidding. So anyways, what is the biggest difference, she asked, her second question, what is the biggest difference between a standardbred track and a thoroughbred track? Good question. You've worked both.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you were at Cherry Hill.
Right.
Meadowlands. You ran the and the Meadowlands for that matter as well.
Actually did the Breeders' Cup in 2008 at Monmouth Park.
Did you really?
And it rained for 4 days, so I couldn't do much.
Oh my goodness.
Being a trackman for a thoroughbred surface, believe me when I tell you, it's much easier than it is working a standardbred surface.
Is it really?
Those guys will race in the slop, they race in the snow, they race in the rain, in the wind. I mean, to a point.
You're talking thoroughbreds or
thoroughbreds?
Thoroughbreds,
yeah.
okay.
It doesn't matter how sloppy the track is; they race in the slop. Standardbreds, those guys don't like to get dirty. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't either,
and I wouldn't either. So we try to prevent that as much as we can and keep the surface as good as we can and keep those guys clean every night and safe.
So now the difference from a thoroughbred sloppy track, how does that differ from a harness sloppy track?
Well, a harness sloppy track, what we try to do is we try to get the surface as tight as we can before it rains.
And how do you do that?
We have two rollers and screens that we pull behind the tractors, and all
Okay.
that does is flatten off the surface and pop up the stone a little bit.
So the water can flow off.
So when it rains, the water just runs off instead
Gotcha.
of being absorbed. Thoroughbred track, it all gets absorbed one way or another.
And then as a result, you have a sloppy track for quite a few more hours, maybe even a few more days than what you would have with a harness track. Harness track, you're going to turn over quicker as far as bringing it back to a fast track than a thoroughbred track.
Oh, absolutely. If it rains and you get some sun and wind, it's just a matter of an hour, maybe hour and a half, and this thing is as fast as it can be.
Lightning fast. With the limestone here, have you ever worked with the red clay, say at the Red Mile? More clay than limestone. And how does that differ?
Earlier in my career, I worked at Syracuse Mile. It was
Okay.
a mile racetrack in Syracuse, New York.
Right.
And that was a clay track.
Okay.
When it rains, it's a mess. We have to go out with the graders and actually have to peel some surface off to get down to something that's not mushy.
And that's what you do not want to do with a limestone track.
Right. You just want to make that as hard as you can so the water just runs off.
How about the synthetic surface? Have you ever worked with the synthetic surface? I know with the thoroughbreds, they've used that within the last few years. I'm not sure if any tracks still have that in place, but I know years back in Canada, I believe, perhaps, I'm not sure which track, but they use a synthetic surface for the harness. Have you ever worked with anything like that?
I actually worked with a man called Mike Dickinson. He invented Tapeta, which they have out in California, I believe, at Golden Gate and a couple other tracks. He does a lot of work across the ocean.
Okay.
That poly track, that kind of
Poly track.
disappeared. That stuff just didn't hold up. But Mike's stuff seemed to work pretty well. We tried it for standardbreds in a strip, but you just can't get that stuff to compact enough to get the right tracks.
Bind.
No, it doesn't bind, yeah. Which is a great property for thoroughbreds, but not for standardbreds.
Sure, makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Thomas Park, this is a great question. If you could build the perfect harness racetrack, where would it be located, and what would be the size? What material would you use?
Wow. Unfortunately, I think I would go back to the Northeast.
Okay.
And the only reason being is I think that's the best standardbred track material available in the country. I've seen it everywhere, and I think that is the best material.
And it's not cost effective to ship that to the Midwest.
Well, it depends how deep your pockets are. But I'd love to see it here, but have to talk to Rod about that one. And I would build a 5/8.
5/8.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
I think that's the ideal track. I think half-mile tracks are way too short. It's too hard on horses.
Right.
Mile track, like Meadowlands, it's a run and gun. It's not exciting racing.
Right.
I think my 5/8 are horses get a little break somewhere in the mile.
Right.
And it's always good.
Good. Super. Okay, let's see here. I think you've answered a lot of the questions that I have here. How do the results differ from, say, a downpour and the drizzle that we're experiencing now? Which would you rather see, a downpour or an hour drizzle?
I'd rather see it pour hard for 10 minutes than drizzle for an hour. It's just
Because of the soaking.
The light rain just lays on the racetrack and never runs off, and it creates a very sloppy surface. If you
Gotcha.
get a hard rain, most of that will run off, and it'll stay pretty clean.
Okay, very good. So last year we were able to build a back track, if you will, a jogging track. In fact, we've got some B-roll here. That's something that obviously I'm assuming only a harness track will have. You won't see a back track at a thoroughbred facility, will you?
Not really. You may see a small sand strip or something like that, but
So what is the back track used for primarily?
what I've noticed here is a lot of guys will take their 2-year-olds out there, or their young horses, or horses that are skittish of tractors or
Okay.
equipment. Of course, it don't show that, but it's a nice little jogging track. We try to keep a lot of cushion on it, keep it soft. So
Just an option.
horses that are lame maybe want to go back there. It's just another option. Yeah.
How big of a track? Quarter-mile track, maybe?
Yeah, it's about a quarter mile, I
Quarter
guess.
mile,
Yeah.
okay.
I never measured it, but
So just a nice, easy jog out there, just to mix
Yeah.
things up for not
That's
only
it.
for the horsemen, but for the horses as well.
yeah, it's quiet, less traffic.
Okay.
Good place to be.
So then during qualifiers, I'm assuming that track gets pretty busy.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
Okay. And qualifiers are run once, twice?
Twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock a.m. Okay. So how does that mess up your day then? How does that differ? How do those days differ for you as far as scheduling and whatnot than, say, on any other day?
Well, I just come in a little earlier on Wednesday and Saturday, but that's okay. I love racing. I love the horses. Love what I do. So it's not, it's not a big deal anymore. I've been doing it too long. So.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of qualifiers. We had over 100 qualifiers the first 3 qualifying sessions we had here. So we've seen plenty of qualifiers.
Sure, certainly. Well, Gary, it's great to have you back again to Indiana. Hopefully 8 more years and more, and wish you the best of luck. Hopefully we can get this weather turned back around here. I promise you we will. Things will heat up before long here, and things will certainly dry off. Right now the track condition is good. Say it doesn't rain the rest of the night. Will this track, we'll be able to post fast as far as track condition by the end of the night? Or does
maybe by the end. I just looked out. The wind's blowing pretty good. As long as the wind's blowing and no rain, it'll dry up pretty quick.
Dry pretty quick. And the forecast says there is no rain, so we might be in good shape.
If you believe the weatherman, good for you.
One thing that Emily and I have talked about a lot, and we may be all wet, I don't know, but it seems like we've noticed over the last number of years, 2 days after hard rain, this track gets lightning fast. How does that work? I mean, why?
I just think all the sediment and all the materials settle.
Okay.
So that when you cut a cushion, you can be much more exact as to how much you get. The track works a lot better when we work it. It's hard to explain, but it's much better after it rains. The track is put together, and you can cut what you want to cut or not cut what you want to cut.
Gotcha.
And, be more precise with what you're trying to do.
Gotcha. How much of a cushion do you have on this track?
There's probably
Or what's the ideal?
about, everyone says 3/4 of an inch.
3/4 of an
Yeah.
inch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's obviously your goal each and every night. It's going to be hard to be. Is it hard to be consistent with that? From
Well,
a night
you
to
just
night?
got to keep on top of it. The thing is trotters like a little more,
Trotters like a little more.
and the pacers, of course, like a little less, and the
Okay.
drivers here would like none. But so we try to find a happy medium, and I think we've done that all along so far. That's one of my big things. Try to be consistent,
Right.
so these guys know what they're going to be on every night, so they can shoe their horses to the way the track is playing, and do the right things.
Interesting. One thing that one of your first tasks that you were assigned when you came to Hoosier Park was make the track a little bigger by virtue of a passing lane here at Hoosier Park. And here's a look from the stretch camera. What, an eighth of a mile? Is that 16th of a mile?
No, it's an eighth of a
Eighth
mile.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts at the official start. It's 8 feet wide, and it's a little over eighth of a mile long because it goes about 300 feet past the wire.
8 feet wide. So
8 feet wide.
2 horses down to the inside?
We tried just for one. A race bike is
Okay.
about 6 feet, so
Okay.
or 5 feet, 6 feet.
Okay.
That's plenty.
Okay. All right. So how much time did it take to build something like that? And how hard was it to incorporate that into the rest of the track? I mean, obviously you want consistency as far as footing is concerned.
Yep.
Putting in something like a passing lane to an existing track, that has to be a big concern. The consistency part.
and we did that. I believe it was Thanksgiving week.
Oh, okay.
I managed to get home for Thanksgiving.
Okay, well, that's good.
But,
Sure, your wife was happy about that.
Yeah, we actually brought in a milling machine like they do on the highways, how they mill blacktop
Sure,
off before
right.
and we went down to a depth of 10 inches, 8 feet wide with the milling machine, so we had a real accurate base.
Right.
And then we came back with the same material that we use on the racetrack and filled that all in and got that packed in back to the consistency of the rest of the racetrack. So
Sure.
worked out good.
Okay, so when you build a racetrack like this, what do you start with? Obviously your base, but what's your base consist of?
It's a large stone and it's graduated down to a real fine stone.
Large stone?
Yeah, like a 2-inch stone.
Okay.
And you just graduate it down maybe to 3/4 and then a 1/4 inch. And then put about 8 or 10 inches of whatever material you have in the area. That's what they're going to race on.
Okay, very good. So the depth of the base is
About a foot.
about a foot?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Then you go.
If there's something good underneath that,
Then-
it all depends on what's underneath.
What, and angle-wise, on the turns, and obviously it varies from track to track. What would be an ideal, in your opinion, would be an ideal angle as far as, having the turns angled? What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, bank.
Bank. There we go. There we go. I'm not a track man.
When we came in last fall, I actually started working on this track shortly after you closed in November.
Okay.
We came in and milled the first 30 feet of the racetrack, and why we did that, we wanted to have the same consistency for the first 30 feet because that's where most of the racing is done.
All the way around.
All the way around. And then we brought in our architects and our surveyors and put it back to grade. It's about 8% in the turns here. I would actually like to see a little more someday.
A little more.
It never hurts, yeah. Yeah.
And
The shorter the turns, the more the banking.
the shorter the turns, the more the banking.
Like
Now,
on a half-mile track, it should be up there 14, 15%.
like
On
a Bristol Raceway, where
yeah,
it's just a bowl.
Roosevelt's banked that way. And then on a 5/8 track, maybe 12%. And then on a mile track or 7/8 mile track, probably 8 to 10%.
So then in the straightaways, any banking in the straightaways?
Yeah, there's about 4% actually. Yeah, just so the water doesn't lay there. You just want it to be able to run off.
And then I'm assuming up top you have a crown and then a flat spot where most of the horses will be jogging?
Yeah, it goes up 4% to about 65 feet, and then it actually goes the other way 2% so that the water on the outside of the track runs off the outside, the rest of the water runs off the inside.
So it's all about shedding the water.
That's it. Yep. Yep, very important.
Very good. Okay, Gary. Well, again, thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. Sure beats being out on the weather right now. You're in here where it's nice and dry and warm, but you'll probably have to go back to work here shortly.
Yeah. Well, they tell me that it does warm up here in July, I guess.
It does. Believe me, it does. It does. So, big weekend of racing. We've got some good racing coming up here. Some big trots tomorrow night. And Freaky Feet Pete, of course, will be back again on Saturday evening. So, making his second start of the season. I got to ask you this. Standardbreds or thoroughbreds? Which do you prefer?
Standardbreds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trotters or pacers?
Trotters. I actually like trotters.
Trotters, okay. Patriots or Colts?
Colts.
There we go. There we go. That's the answer I was looking for. Hey, thanks for joining us on Behind the Lines, and best of luck this evening. Enjoy your evening.
The gate and get involved. From breeding, buying, and